Hey, it's Booray Perry, and today on Booray Explains, we're going to talk about hyperfocal distance. Before we get started, don't forget to check out my podcast. It's called Photobomb. It's available anywhere that podcasts are found. You can join my group on Facebook. It's called Pro Photo Talk with Booray Perry. Also, I have a fantastic Instagram channel. Just go to @BourayPerry on Instagram. I also have all my gear listed down in the description. And if you click on that and you go and you look at all my gear and you end up buying something, I get a couple of dollars. And I have a brand new store. That's right. I am monetizing. I am trying to get a little bit of money to help me pay for all the work that I do on these videos. So check out my shirts and my hats and my mugs, my camera nerd stuff, and you might see something that you like and help me to keep this channel alive. All right, let's talk about hyperfocal distance. Hyperfocal distance is one of those things that a lot of photographers don't know what it is, and a lot of photographers don't need to know what it is. To be honest, I've never really used it much myself, although there are times I think I could have improved my work by understanding hyperfocal distance. So let's get into it. The technical definition of hyperfocal distance is the closest distance that allows infinity to be reasonably sharp. Now that's kind of tricky because what's reasonably sharp, right? My definition of what sharp is might be a little different than your definition of what sharp is, but there seems to be a consensus about what that is, and so lenses have a hyperfocal distance. This is a distance. If you focus the lens at this distance, you will get infinity reasonably sharp, and then you'll also get a distance in front of your focusing point that's also reasonably sharp. It may not come all the way back to the camera, but you will get some in that range that's reasonably sharp. This is easier to understand if you actually look at it. So let's go to the drawing board. Let's say you are out on a beautiful day and you are taking some pictures of some landscapes. And let me tell you, hyperfocal distance, landscape people are all about hyperfocal distance. And there's a mountain way off in the distance. And you want this mountain to be in focus. Now, if you focus directly on this mountain, your depth of field is going to look like this. The mountain is going to be right in the middle, and then some stuff in front and some stuff behind the mountain are also going to be in focus. But the mountain is as far as you need to go. The mountain is infinity for you. So why do you need all this to be in focus? It's behind the mountain. We can't even see it. What we want is more stuff out here to be in focus. And so that is where hyperfocal distance comes into play. Because if you know your hyperfocal distance, the idea behind hyperfocal distance is there will be a point somewhere in here, let's say it's right about here, where your depth of field will look like this. And you notice how the backside of my depth of field ends right at the mountain. So the mountain is in focus, but everything behind the mountain is out of focus. And that's okay, because we're not taking a picture of anything behind the mountain. But what this does for us is it moves our entire depth of field to the front side of the mountain. So we get as much as possible in focus in front of the mountain. That's hyperfocal distance. So here's a good example of where I could have used hyperfocal distance and it might have helped out. When I took this picture, I wanted my subject to be in focus, and I wanted everything else to be a little bit blurry because that's just the way I tend to shoot. I like for everything to be blurry except for my subject, and that's what I got here. But if I had wanted more to be in focus, then I could have tried to use hyperfocal distance. I could have tried to set my focus point behind my subject somewhere so that the subject was in the front end of the focus, and then I got more behind the subject that was in focus. So I could have gotten those red rocks in focus. I could have gotten everything in between her and the red rocks in focus. Who knows how far back I could have gotten that focus to go if I had set my camera to the hyperfocal distance and aimed for that point. Which brings us to the big question, how do you compute the hyperfocal distance? How do you figure out which one is the right distance for hyperfocal focusing? Say that. Hyperfocal focusing. Say that 3 times fast. Well, sometimes the lens actually has it marked on it. Like some of the older lenses, this one doesn't have it, but some of the older lenses, if you look here, you'll see it actually will tell you right there on the lens how many feet you're focusing at, right? So that's infinity right there. And a lot of times you'll find there'll be a red dot right about there on the lens, and that red dot will be telling you that's the hyperfocal distance. If you focus at that distance, you're going to get everything from that point out to infinity in focus or reasonably sharp, as they like to say. And that's your hyperfocal distance. And let me tell you, once again, landscape artists, they live and die by hyperfocal distance. So if you want to go out and shoot beautiful landscapes on vacation and stuff like that, learning about hyperfocal distance is a great thing. But modern cameras, they don't tend to have that marked on the lens anymore. So you can actually do computations. And I went to Wikipedia and I pulled some of the computations off, and here they are. And as you can see, I don't think you want to be doing this with a piece of paper and a pencil. Luckily, we have modern technology. So if you go and you look in the app stores, any of the app stores, you will find plenty of apps that allow you to compute the hyperfocal distance of your camera and your lens right there on your phone quickly and easily. It's that easy to do. All right, I hope you're enjoying this series. I'm trying to work my way through everything that I can. If you're just watching this for the first time, I encourage you to go back to the beginning of the series, Booray Explains, and I'll put the link right up here for you. Go back and start at the beginning. Some of the things I talk about you probably already know, but some of them you don't. And in every video, you might find a little something that helps you out. And I'm hoping by the time I'm done to have explained everything there is to be explained about photography. Be sure and throw me a like and throw me a subscribe, and thanks for watching.